Hey guys, thank you so much for coming to my channel. In this tutorial, we're going to learn how to make some geode resin art. Resin is pretty sticky and you have a pretty small window to work with, so you just want to make sure you have all your supplies out in front of you and ready, and your workplace is protected. Now we're going to take the painter's tape and create a dam over the edge of the panels. If you're using canvas, that's fine, just support the back, but you're also going to want to make a dam with the canvas too. This keeps our design in place, otherwise it's just going to fall over the edges and blur our lines. You're going to want to make a rough sketch. I just went on Google and found a really pretty geode and kind of followed the lines of that. You'll want to pick 3 or 4 main colors and paint in your guidelines. This doesn't have to be perfect either. We're just going to be using this as a guideline for our resin, so just kind of get the basic colors that you're looking for. In resin, I'm just going to do you a solid right now and let you know you're going to want to skip over the next couple steps. You'll have to look at the directions on your own resin, but this is a 1-to-1 ratio, so I'm just measuring them out on these Dixie cups. The Dixie cups are nice because they have a line, but otherwise you're going to want to make sure that you have the exact measurement of each part. Now we're just going to be taking both of our components and mixing it together in a bigger cup. You want to make sure when you're mixing that you're going according to the time directions, and also that you're going along the edges and the bottom. You want to mix it really well. If it's not mixed properly, it's not going to set properly, and that is not going to be good. I cut out the part of me laying the resin down, but you'll be able to see that a little bit later in the video. Start with your white resin in the center of the geode and then just keep following the process. Just take your time so you make sure you're following your lines. You'll want to take your largest stones first and start putting it around the second color. Taking some of these little pink stones and putting them kind of through the inside just to give it a more realistic effect and break up the colors a little bit. These are those little glass beads you can get at any dollar store or craft store, and my husband just smashed them up with a hammer and they shine really nice. It looks good, but I mean, anywhere you can find some broken glass or just anything, you'll have to improvise with something like this. This is some gold little pieces of glass that I got at Michael's. I don't know what it's called, but I'll put a link below. It is beautiful. It shines so nice, so I will make sure to get a link in there for that. You just want to keep messing with it and make sure that everything's symmetrical and you don't have too many big stones or small stones in there. Just keep stepping back and keep taking a look at it to see what looks right to you. Just keep in mind this is the first layer, so if there's anything that you don't like, you can always add on to it later on the second layer. Now I'm taking some of the gold leaf and a popsicle stick and I'm just pushing it in between the different layers of stones and glass. It just adds another element of shine, and gold leaf just always makes everything more beautiful. I'm just taking the black now and putting it around the stones that I have set, and I'm just making it pop and kind of weaving it in between to give it some texture. Make sure you're using your torch along the way just to make sure you're getting out the bubbles and get a smooth finish. If you don't like this straight line, you could just run your popsicle stick through there and give it kind of a marbling effect. You can also thinly layer different colors of your resin, and that gives it a lot of depth too. I went and grabbed these out of the other room really quick. These are like a really small gem, and it just gives a really nice glamour effect, and that's what I'm going for with this, like a sultry Persian princess geode. This is some of the coal that I have. You're just going to want to use whatever materials you have and just kind of intermix them in the center of the geode. This is some more of like the white opaque big mica flakes, and I'm just putting this around the center and throughout the bigger stones just to kind of pull everything together. You can see the progress so far. Some has the resin and the stones, and then some still has the paint. Here you can see how I'm going around the outline that I've created with the resin. Just kind of follow the guidelines that you already have, and you can go through the inside with a popsicle stick and fill it in. You just don't want to be over pouring, because then you're going to start getting bleed lines. I ended up putting a little white over the right hand side to get my trail back and adding in a little bit more mixed media, but we'll go through that in the next step. So now we're ready for the second layer. You'll want to check your directions to see what the cure time is, but once the first layer is cured, you'll want to just start preparing your supplies. I already mixed my resin on the side, but I just wanted to point out that I leave a little bit of the clear on the side because you're probably going to want to add in a glitter or a pigment or a color that you just didn't think of before. When adding in your pigments and your acrylic, you only want to add a little bit, maybe like 5 to 10%, but in this case we are going to add quite a bit of glitter. I want it pretty thick so that it'll hold its shape when we're doing a line. Just like before, we're going to keep repeating the same steps over and over. So we're just going to keep following the line. In this case, I'm following the gold glass line that was created in the first layer. You're just going to keep going along bit by bit and just figuring out what colors you want to put where and what colors can, accentuate the others. This isn't going to be your last layer. You still have another layer to go. So keep that in mind while you're doing this. There's going to be some colors at the end of this and some parts of the geode where you're kind of thinking, that needs more. And you will put more, but just not right now. You don't want to keep mixing and keep going too much on this part because it starts mixing together and it doesn't go with the flow. I'm adding a little texture in this layer with some of the big mica flakes. I'm taking the liquid gold and I'm just running it along the wet resin, and it gives it a really cool effect. You really want to just keep defining the lines that you already have. You already have a base to work with, so you need to just keep switching your colors and adding different textures and layers of shine and pearl and matte and just everything in between, and slowly it comes together. There's gonna be times where you're like, oh my god, this is not working, but it's gonna work. It's not supposed to be perfect. It's supposed to be organic, just like a geode. So it's gonna look awesome. You just need to have a little bit of patience, and just remember, this video is all sped up, so it's gonna take a lot longer than this. Take your time. If you need to mix different, mix things separately, go ahead and just have fun with it. It's gonna look awesome. If you've never used resin before, you might want to start with just a one panel piece or smaller panels just to get used to it. It is pretty tricky to work with, but once you get the hang of it, it's all about experimenting and having fun. Here I'm just putting down some clear resin, and I'm going to go through with the gold, the liquid gold, and make the same effect. And it'll be cool because you can kind of see through to the background, so it just gives a lot of depth, which is what I'm going for. I'm doing the same thing here again. I'm using the clear resin and fanning out the liquid gold. I always call it gold leaf. The liquid gold from the inside out, and just kind of fanning it out and connecting the colors together. I'm adding in just a lot of different textures and layers, and if you don't want to add that much, that's totally up to you. I'm going for a really intense look on this one, so I'm trying a lot of different techniques on here and just going for a really wild look. Keep going little by little and it'll all start connecting together, and you'll just keep stepping back and looking and seeing what you're needing. Like here, I really needed this black. Like I had to pull this inside together and create that form. Keep going around your piece and just looking and seeing what needs different sizes of mixed media and stones and glitter, and just make sure it all flows together on each side. Don't worry if your colors start kind of mixing together a little bit and going rogue on you. In the third layer, you're going to start outlining and doing some finer detail, so that's going to give that vein a really cool look. Now we're on to our third and final layer, and this is all going to be about fine detailing. So you really want to take your time on this step and just go through and see what needs what. Like here, I'm taking the white and I'm just defining the edge and making it stand out. You might want to mix up a little bit of resin even for this layer, and you can apply it with a little paintbrush like I'm doing here. But just take your paint markers or whatever you have and just start using it for fine detailing. Your first layer is already hard and cured, so if you get a little bit of your glitter or stones out of line, you could just take a little paintbrush and brush it back onto the wet resin. I'm making a little guideline here that I'm going to fill in with glitter and some of those large mica pigments, and then later in the video you're going to see that I'm going to go back through with my fine pen. Just keep messing with it bit by bit and it's all going to start to take its form. Just use what you know, use different tricks and things that you've learned along the way, and keep refining and doing what you think works. Alright you guys, you've made your first geode. So I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. If you did, please subscribe to my channel. And this is actually my first tutorial, so if you have any advice for me, please let me know and share this with your friends. I actually have another tutorial coming up on something just as cool. It's not a geode, but it's just as cool, and I'll teach you some really fun techniques. So like my Instagram, get on my Facebook, and keep watching my pages for some new cool tutorials. All right, thanks guys, bye.